What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 10th Doctor David Tennant story, Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks. It is the first two-parter from Series 3. It is the Dalek story of Series 3 as well, coming kind of midway through the season instead of for the season finale, which has kind of been the case for the last two series, apart from, I guess, Series 1 where it was the finale, but it was also a story middle of the season. But yeah, this is the only Dalek story of the season. It's one that, to be honest, gets a lot of hate. This episode has never been a lot of people's favourite episode. And I'm not going to come out here and say that it's my favourite Dalek episode, even from this era. It is probably my least favourite Dalek story of the RTD era. But I've always thought that it's hated on a bit too much, in my opinion. But we'll get into it anyway. Let's get started with the cast. David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. As always, really, really good stuff from David Tennant in this episode. He has some great moments with all the characters. It's a great cast of characters in this one. There's a few here and there that are not the best, but on the most part, yeah, everybody is a somewhat interesting character. Some of the kind of voice acting and not voice acting, because they're doing like American accents, some of the characters, it's very over the top, which is, I think, one of the things that a lot of people don't like about this story. But yeah, David Tennant himself, though, really, really good. Great to see him with the Daleks again, as always. And yeah, nothing really bad to say. Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones, also very, very good in this story. Yeah, she kind of gets taken away a little bit for a while and has some good moments with Andrew Garfield's character, I believe. Frank, is he called? Yeah, some great moments with him. They have kind of a great chemistry, great rapport with each other. And yeah, all in all, great stuff from Freema. Right, let's get on to some points about this episode, starting with Daleks in Manhattan. The Daleks are in charge of the construction of the Empire State Building. So this episode is set in New York City, in Manhattan, and the Empire State Building is being constructed at this time, and it turns out that the Daleks are in charge of finishing off the construction of this building. So it's an interesting little concept there. They're obviously up to something strange here, because, yeah, why would the Daleks be in charge of the construction of this building? What's going on? There's obviously something going on here, which we will find out later on. The cult of Skaro survived. So, yeah, it's kind of a thing with the Daleks that every time they get defeated, you kind of know they're gonna come back again. It turns out here that the cult of Skaro are the only Daleks that survived. They were, of course, the 4 Daleks from Army of Ghosts and Doomsday, mostly just Doomsday. And, you know, you've got Dalek Sec, Dalek Thay, Dalek Khan, and Dalek Jasp? I can't remember what his name was. Something like that. And, yeah, they have all survived, but they are the only 4 Daleks left, is what is to be believed at this time. We always know that's not necessarily always the case, but that is what is being told here. And I love the cult of Skaro. It's great to see them back here again, and I think it's a very interesting story to have them in. Frank is taken by the pig slaves. So Frank is the character played by Andrew Garfield. I believe before he was really well known. He's a very well-known actor now. I don't think he is here. He's just, you know, not a big name at this point, so that's pretty cool to see him in this episode. The pig slaves are basically these mutant people/pigs that the Daleks have created as their slaves. And yeah, these pig slaves, they take Frank down under the into kind of the sewers, and yeah, he gets taken. We find out later on that he does survive, but yeah, it's a pretty scary moment where, you know, everybody gets out from, you know, the manhole cover, and Frank is screaming and he just gets ripped away. It is a terrifying scene. The other Daleks question Sek's plan because it would mean impure Daleks. A big thing with the Daleks that's kind of been always part of their story is that they think that Daleks are the best thing in the world and nothing can come close to them. They have to be pure, you know. But there's the whole thing with this story is that there's only 4 of them left. To keep the Daleks going and surviving, they need to kind of hybrid themselves with humans, or with something, in this case with humans, to continue, you know, the Daleks' life, their legacy, or else they are going to die out. So that's where this kind of thing comes in, if they want to kind of hybrid themselves with the humans to survive. But the other Daleks aren't so sure about this. They're like, there's that lovely little moment. I say lovely little moment. There's that great moment where two of the Daleks are talking to each other and kind of bickering like, well, I'm not sure about this whole plan thing. Because, yeah, Daleks are so like, Daleks have to be pure, but it's a really interesting moral thing for the Daleks. And it's something that, yeah, I think a lot of people don't like the whole Daleks, not being completely pure in this episode. But that is the whole point of this episode, and I think it works really well. Dalek Sec puts Mr. Diagoras inside his casing. So Mr. Diagoras is kind of the one leading the building of the Empire State Building underneath the Daleks. He's kind of the head human in this situation. He knows about the Daleks. He's working for the Daleks. And he gets a promotion somewhat by the Daleks, by Dalek Sec taking him and putting him inside his case to then turn him into the first proper human Dalek. It's a very gruesome scene. It's, very strange. I don't know why, Dalek Sec, we've seen the kind of alien, the Dalek alien inside them before. It's very different looking here because, it's got to fit a whole person inside as well. Where all the other kind of internal stuff is that you usually have inside a Dalek, I don't know. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. All of a sudden we're able to fit a human inside this Dalek casing, whereas in the past there has not been the room for that as far as I'm aware. So that is a little bit of a stretch of how that works, but I'm just going to say that they modified Dalek Sec because this was their plan, so they kind of modified him to be able to fit a person in there. That's what I'm going with. You Put the Devil in Me, of course, the song from this episode, which, to be honest, is quite catchy. I do find this quite a catchy song. It's not the best song in the world, but it's a nice little scene, a little musical element to this episode. It's not a musical episode, but just having this little musical element in there, I think is really good. It's a catchy song. It's a bit of a silly song, but I think it's fine. Laszlo wasn't fully converted into a pig slave. So Laszlo is, what's her name? Do I have her name written down here somewhere? I don't think I do. Tallulah, that's it. Tallulah, 2 L's and a H, 2 H's and an L, whatever way around it is. Laszlo is Tallulah's boyfriend. He goes missing right at the start of the episode in the cold open. Turns out he's been turned into a pig slave, but he hasn't quite been turned the whole way. He says that, they haven't quite got to his mind. They've changed his body, but they hadn't quite got to his mind yet. How he managed to escape them, I don't really know. I mean, he looks completely different to all the other pig slaves. So how they don't realize you're not properly changed is beyond me. It doesn't really make any sense. But Laszlo turns out to be a pretty big part of this story. How did the Daleks not notice the Doctor? So this is towards the end of the first episode, Daleks in Manhattan, and the Doctor refines Martha, refines Frank. Turns out they're getting taken towards the Daleks, their main lair. So the Doctor kind of comes in there, slots in place, and then he's getting Martha to ask the Daleks questions because the Daleks don't recognize Martha. He wants her to ask some questions, try and get some information, because if he just steps up and talks to them, they're going to be like, hey, we know you, you're the Doctor, and everything's going to go basically up the wall. So he's getting her to ask questions, but he's just stood there right behind her as the Daleks are looking directly at Martha and talking to Martha, and how they don't realize, hey, that's the Doctor there. He's not hidden at all. He's just stood there right next to her. It just, to me, it's like, this doesn't, you've got to hide a bit more. How does nobody realize? You've got 4 Daleks here who have all met you before and were terrified of you for what you did to them, but you just kind of stood there apparently invisible. Is he wearing one of those necklaces that he wears in The Sound of Drums? Is it The Sound of Drums? In the master finale for the series? Has he got one of those around his neck so they can't see him? What? I don't understand that at all. Dalek Sec becomes a human Dalek. The cliffhanger for Daleks in Manhattan is, of course, when Mr. Diagoras comes out of Dalek Sec as the first human Dalek hybrid. It is a great cliffhanger. I think it's so cool. I really like the Dalek hybrid thing. Is it a bit silly? Yes, but I think it's a pretty cool concept that they went with here. And yeah, it ends the first part of the story. Onto evolution of the Daleks. Solomon tries to reason with the Daleks and dies. So Solomon is kind of the leader of the I can't remember what they're called now, but the group of people that basically the homeless people. They don't have a home. They kind of just live in this little camp sort of ground in the middle of Manhattan, and yeah, he's kind of the leader of that group, and he tries to reason with the Daleks when they come down. They fly over to him, or one Dalek flies over to them, and he tries to reason with them. The Doctor tries to stop him, like, you can't reason with the Daleks, and yeah, they end up killing him, of course, and it starts a massive kind of war, but the Doctor ends up stopping it. So yeah, it's a pretty brutal start to this second part. Dalek Sec wants the Doctor alive. This is another big moment because after that happens with Solomon dying, the Doctor basically comes up and says, "Stop this, just kill me. If that's all you need to do, kill me and leave these people alone." And the Dalek is going to kill the Doctor, and then Dalek Sec's like, "No, don't kill him. I want him alive." And this Dalek is like, "I have the urge to kill the Doctor. He is right here. I can kill him. I could be the one to kill the Doctor." But Dalek Sec's like, "Don't do it." And then the Doctor is like, "I've got to go see what they're up to," because Dalek Sec's like, "Bring the Doctor down here." And the Doctor's like, "This isn't normal for Daleks. Daleks don't just change their mind like that. So I've got to see what's going on here." And he becomes really interested and intrigued in what's going on. The Daleks want to make Dalek-human hybrids to evolve. It's what I said before. Yeah, they want to kind of hybrid with the humans to evolve, to keep the Daleks going, because otherwise there's only 4 of them left. They're going to go extinct. The Dalek Sec hybrid, I don't think is what they're necessarily planning for everyone to be like, because they make all these other humans, but they just look like humans but have kind of Dalek thoughts in them somewhat. So I think that's more what they're going for, which is nothing at all like a Dalek, unless they're just like the foot soldiers and they're going to make them more like Dalek Sec. I don't really know if that's the case. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but yeah. The Daleks betrayed Sec and are making the human Daleks more Dalek. Yes, this is a big moment where the Daleks basically capture Dalek Sec because they are like, "No, we cannot go on with this." Because what they're kind of doing with the human Daleks is, yes, they are making them very Dalek, but they're also keeping some human elements to them. And this is a thing with Dalek Sec. He's like, "I think humans, they have this compassion and all this sort of stuff." And he's like, "And it's good. I really like it." And the Doctor's like, "That's a good thing for a Dalek?" And yeah, basically Dalek Sec wants to keep some human parts of these Daleks, whereas the Daleks, they want to make these human Daleks, as Dalek as possible. And they end up, yeah, basically capturing Dalek Sec and changing the what they're putting into these human Daleks to make them more Dalek. Martha electrocutes the pig slaves. Bit of a cool scene, but a bit like, oh, another one of those kind of, that's very convenient sort of scenes where the Doctor is going up the tower to try and get the Dalekanium off the top of the Empire State Building, and they've got pig slaves coming up the elevator, and Martha, Frank, and Tallulah have to try and survive because otherwise they're going to come here and completely kill them. So she rigs up this random little thing with pipes and all this sort of stuff, metal things to shove into the elevator, that when the lightning just happens to strike the building, it's going to go down through this metal thing into the elevator and kill the pig slaves. It is one of the most convenient things I have ever seen in Doctor Who. And although it's a nice scene, it is a bit like, wow, that is just convenience up the wazoo. The Doctor is electrocuted on the mast, so that's happening at the same time when he's trying to get the Dalekanium off. He isn't quite able to get it off before the lightning strike, and he ends up just holding on to the mast so that he doesn't get flung off, basically, and he gets electrocuted. He almost dies. He's pretty much dead. Like, It's a pretty brutal thing, him getting electrocuted on that mast. The Daleks kill Dalek Sec. Another big moment for this episode. They don't necessarily do it on purpose, but they are going to, I think, kill the Doctor. They're about to exterminate the Doctor, but Dalek Sec jumps in front and goes, "No, don't kill the Doctor." Puts himself in the way, and they end up killing Dalek Sec. That is a big moment in this story. The human Daleks kill the Daleks. Yes, the Doctor ends up revealing that him getting in the way of the mast when that lightning strike happened, that put a little bit of Time Lord into them, which once again, it's like him just being on the mast puts Time Lord energy into it. Like, it's a bit weird. I mean, the fact that the Dalekanium just being on the mast also apparently puts Dalek into them. I mean, it's just metal. I don't know how that works. But anyway, the human Daleks have now got a little bit of Time Lord in them, a little bit of freedom, I think is what the Doctor says, and they end up killing the Daleks because they refuse to kill the Doctor. They're like, why should we kill? What's the point? Why do we need to kill? You got to give an explanation. The Daleks just like, just kill him, and they're like, but why? And they end up destroying the Daleks. Dalek Khan escaped. So as always with the Daleks, there's always something. They always somehow survive. One Dalek is left. Dalek Khan is the only Dalek left. Sek's dead. Jast, whatever he's called, is dead. Thay is dead. Khan is the only one left. That scene where it's like the Doctor and Dalek Khan, it's shot beautifully. It's so dramatic. And Khan just, using the emergency temporal shift is a little bit funny, but that gets him away. And of course, we'll see him later on in Series 4. But yeah, this episode is not like a lot of other episodes where it's like the Daleks seem to be dead, but it turns out they just happen to survive. We know, or we're pretty certain here, that one Dalek has gotten away here. So yeah, I think it's one of the better endings to a Dalek story because we always know they're going to come back anyway. So to have it not be they're all dead, woohoo, it's like one did actually get away. We will see him again. So there we go. That was Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks. A very long one here. I had a lot of notes for this episode. And it was one that I did quite enjoy. A rating out of 10. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Like I said, I think people hate on this episode a bit too much. I don't think it's a bad episode. I think it's pretty good. There's some fairly cringy stuff in there. And there is also some stuff that doesn't make a whole lot of sense and is quite convenient in some ways. But on the most part, I think this is quite an enjoyable episode. So a 7.5 out of 10. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.